Welcome to Guide Mia. Today we're going to talk about working as a designer on Cympha. 3 names first. Guide Mia is the company. Cympha is the online platform where cases reach you. Guide Mia also makes the desktop design programs, Implant Master and OrthoPlus, which run on Windows and which your lab licenses separately. Our example is Maria Garcia, a designer at Apex Dental Lab. Her lab manager has just assigned her the implant case Dr. Amara submitted, and she is going to design the surgical guide and send it back for approval. The theme running through all of this, Cympha moves files, it does not tell you which software to open. Where you design stays your decision. Here is the whole loop. 2 steps you do once, joining the lab and setting up the agent. The other 4 repeat on every case for as long as you do this job. Look at where the fork sits, because it says something about how the platform is built. The branch is at the design step itself, and the 3 branches are a Guide Mia desktop application, Cympha Studio in the browser, or any other CAD you already own. They rejoin immediately. Everything before the fork is getting the right files and the right brief in front of you. Everything after is getting the result back and handling what the doctor says. So the part where your expertise lives is deliberately the part Cympha has fewest opinions about, and that is why you are not asked to abandon a tool you are already fast in. Sign up at app.cympha.com and choose your role, then enter your lab manager's email address so you land in the right lab. Get that address from your manager rather than guessing. On the role itself, designer is for anyone doing design work. If your job is receiving and checking incoming cases, that is case intaker. If it is printing and milling, that is manufacturing engineer on the role screen. Ask before you sign up, because a role cannot be changed from your account afterwards. Your account then starts pending. You will see a banner saying you are awaiting approval and a sidebar with most things missing. That is expected, not broken, and nothing you do from your side will change it. When your lab manager approves you, My Assignments appears. There is no automatic approval and no timer, it waits on a human. So if you are still pending the next day, do not raise a ticket and do not sign up again with a different address. Go and nudge your lab manager, because the request is sitting on their screen waiting for a click. This step is genuinely optional, so let us be clear about the trade. The Cympha agent is a small free program that moves files between Cympha and your desktop. Paired, it puts the files for a case assigned to you into your workspace folder without you fetching them, and sends the design you finish back without you uploading it. Without it, you download from the case page and upload to the case page in your browser. That works perfectly well and is sometimes exactly what you want, particularly on a machine that is not yours. The constraint that decides it for some people, the agent runs on Windows only, as do the Guide Mia desktop programs. If you work on a Mac, you use the browser for everything, and the rest of this session still applies. The setup, once. Open the software page in the sidebar and install Cympha Agent Manager. Right-click its icon down by the clock and choose Pair to Cympha, enter your email, and approve it in the browser tab that opens. The Agent Manager window then shows Paired as, followed by your address, and that is how you confirm it worked. Then open Configure Workspace and choose the folder your case files should sync into. There is no default until you pick one, so if files never appear, this is the first thing to check rather than the last. Amara's case appears in My Assignments. It can arrive 2 ways, a direct assignment from your lab manager, or automatic routing when the status changes. Automatic routing keeps a case with whoever held it last, and otherwise gives it to the designer with the fewest open cases. It is continuity and workload, not a judgment that you are the right person for this case. Either way, what you do next is identical. Now the habit that separates a smooth day from a wasted one, read before you open anything. The parameters, the files, and the lab slip, which is the 1-page summary of the case that you can download as a PDF. You are looking for what is missing or contradictory. A missing scan. A tooth number that does not match the note. A drilling kit that is not what that brand uses. If anything does not add up, ask in the chat now. 10 seconds of asking beats an hour of designing the wrong thing and finding out at approval, when the doctor is already waiting. Everything you need to start is on this page. The lab slip is the piece to print or keep open beside you, because it is the same summary the bench works from and it comes from the intake form the doctor filled in. Note that the chat is attached to the case rather than to a person, so whatever you ask stays with the case. The next person to touch it, including you in 3 months, can see what was asked and what came back. 3 ways to do the work. For an implant guide you would open Implant Master, for aligners and orthodontics, Ortho Plus. Both are Guide Mia's Windows desktop programs, separate from Cympha and licensed separately by your lab, and they are where you go for full control of the geometry. Cympha Studio is the browser option. Be clear about what it is: a 3-dimensional viewer and the browser companion to Ortho Plus, good for inspecting a case and for refining a plan, rather than a replacement for desktop CAD. And the third option matters most for an experienced technician, any other CAD you already use. Pull the files down, design as you always have, send the result back. No lock-in, and no requirement to abandon a tool you are quick in. Before we talk about sending it back, be clear on what it is, because this is the question a new technician actually has. For an implant there are 2 deliverables in sequence: first the plan, meaning the implant position, angle and depth, and once the doctor has approved that, the guide itself as an STL file. For aligners it is the Ortho Plus project. For crown and bridge work it is usually an STL. If you are ever unsure what your lab expects, the lab slip on the case should say, and if it does not, ask your lab manager in the chat before you design rather than after. One practical note: if you are using the agent, it pauses uploading while an Ortho Plus worker is running, so that program's intermediate saves never reach the cloud. Other CAD applications are not detected, so with those, close yours before you expect an upload. Getting the deliverable onto the case is the step most likely to go wrong, so verify it rather than assume it. Save your file into the case folder in your workspace. Now, what happens next depends on the file. Aligner output, a .gvw, or a results zip, the agent sends up on its own. An implant plan or an STL does not. It sits in the agent's cloud monitor panel under New in Workspace, waiting for you to press upload. Closing your design application does not push it, which is the thing people most often assume. Or skip the agent entirely and upload from the case details page in your browser. Either way, then actually look at the files panel and confirm the file is there. That takes 3 seconds and it prevents the single most common failure in this workflow: a designer requests approval on a case where the deliverable never made it up, and a doctor opens an empty case and loses confidence in the lab. Once you can see the file, click Request Approval. The status flips from designing to awaiting approval and the doctor is emailed. One thing to know in advance: there is no note field on that button. If you want to explain a decision, say it in the case chat first, then request approval. This is the confirmation step in picture form. Build the habit of looking at this panel before you press the button, every time, however routine the case felt. It is the cheapest quality check in the whole workflow, and it is the difference between a doctor who trusts what arrives and one who opens every case expecting something to be missing. The doctor reviews, and whichever way it goes you stay the holder of the case. Cympha always knows whose desk a case is on, and that person is the holder. It does not leave you. If they approve, the plan is signed off, and for an implant that means you now design the actual guide, export the STL, and request approval a second time for the appliance. 2 approval rounds on an implant case is normal rather than a sign something went wrong. Once that final round is approved, an implant case delivers digitally, the system takes it to delivered on its own. You do not set that status by hand. Physical work, where your lab is printing or milling something, is the case that goes through manufacturing and shipping instead. If the doctor requests changes, the case returns to you as changes requested with their note in the chat. Redesign and request approval again. The loop is the same one you have already done. If they escalate, that is the one route that takes the case away from you. It goes to your lab manager, who will re-triage it or hand it back with notes. Escalation usually means there is a disagreement that needs a conversation rather than a correction, so it is not a comment on your work. Read the chat before you assume otherwise. A closing word on Studio, because designers tend to file it as the tool for people without real software, and that undersells it. As a viewer, it is the quickest way to look at a case in 3 dimensions when you are away from your workstation, or to decide whether a case is even worth opening the heavy tool for. It opens the common 3-dimensional formats straight from the case page, and implant plans open from the case as well. Anything else downloads normally. And it will open a plan so you can adjust it and export the result back to the case, working on the case files directly with no workspace folder involved. What it is not is a full CAD package, and it carries a simulation-only note for good reason. That is the designer's loop end to end, and after 2 or 3 cases it stops needing thought. If you take 2 things away, Make them the ones either side of the design work, because that is where the avoidable problems live. Read the brief and ask your question before you start, not after. And confirm the file is on the case before you request approval, not after the doctor tells you it is empty. The design itself is your expertise and Cympha stays out of the way of it. Everything this session covered is the handling around the edges, and getting those edges right is what makes the platform feel like it is helping. The interactive version of this walkthrough is at cympha.com/onboarding. If you want to see what your lab manager is doing on the other side of an assignment, or what the doctor sees when your work reaches them for approval, there are companion sessions for both, following this same implant case.